Okay. Hello, everyone. I had to restart. Anyways, welcome to today's episode. The title is it just endurance till the end? Is it just endurance till the end? Is it? The question is pretty much about how the human being, as an energetic phenomena that is conscious of itself, how the energy is directed. And you can say energy is being used to receive phenomena and energy is being used to express. I look at life and, there's this quote that says, when the child is born, the world laughs gracefully, the world celebrates. And the child cries. But when the child has become an old man and is passing away, the world cries. And the child celebrates, the child laughs. The whole suggestion is, at first, you're the one suffering, but then suffering becomes a reference and it moves on. You know how casually it is for us to just go about our day, to just wake up and for it to be nothing at all and continue. I sometimes wonder, if we were eternal, could temporality be like waking up every day? It's kind of like wondering if, this notion of awakening, like I'm thinking of the concept of the Buddha. The word Buddha means awakened one. And when I think about it, it's like the Buddha awakened from a reality of suffering into a reality where that suffering wasn't there. And when I think about the suffering of my life, like what are the two ways that the type of constant, either you satisfy the suffering, or either the solution is external or the solution is internal. Either the body has to change or the mind. So when we're wondering about the end, I feel most people are considering the end of their body. But what about the energetic momentum of the life? When I look at life as an object, yes, it's just been endurance. From the beginning of my life, I've been just trying to eat food, drink water, have balanced temperature and sleep and get to the next phase, pretty much, to get to the next day. Honestly, the maintenance of the physical existence is to the experiencer endurance. And the idea of discipline is pretty much we got to treat our bodies like a machine, but our minds want to change all the time. I'm not joking, the biological body is like a machine. I'm not saying it's like we are just a machine. I'm saying the biological body is literally like it's from the inhalation exhalation, like it's just very obvious. There's aside from the anatomy and the different systems in the body. I mean, when you think about inside the body, it's so complex. When you think about outside of the body, it's so complex. It's only like, I think it's just the where the eyes are is just simply accessible. Everything else is like, you know, either vast or too fast. So what I'm trying to say is that if we see ourselves as just matter, pure materialism, yes, it is just endurance till the end. I don't know what else can atoms do in the middle of what else can a complex formation of particles do, you know? We endure, we survive, you know? This whole mentality, I realized I kind of disliked it a bit, but pretty much we have classified character based on a spectrum of fear. And the less fear you have, the more stable you are in the moment. The more fear you have, the less you can be stable. No person can feel fear and be unshaken. You know what it is? It's like every human being is afraid of change. But it's that some people, they are afraid even more if they don't change. You know, when it comes to physical existence, there has to be a moment of change. And sometimes of course what it is there's something called the set principle in the body, and pretty much like if you had a night shift, your body would adjust to that. So I feel if we live in a certain way, so for I'll give you myself as an example. Uh, I've been pretty much giving these talks for some time now, and what happens is that it's like the way things become second nature is that they are trusted on an emotional level. What does that mean? That means a person has, imagine you write so much you don't have to think about holding a pen in your hand. Or you've walked so much you don't have to think about walking, you know? So similarly, imagine you expressed as a mind for some time. You would eventually notice more. We can't be in a changing world and just think we're the same thing all the time. I mean, I think it's a miracle, the fact that we've thought we are just one thing, you know? What I'm trying to say is that if we are limited to matter, the world is the purpose. That means pretty much every person has to sit back, find a comfortable chair, and accept that the world is in the driver's seat. But if you saw something more than matter, excuse me, yeah, guys, pretty much if we were beyond matter, matter wouldn't matter. It's not that it wouldn't matter, it wouldn't be the center. Just like how we realize the earth isn't the center of the universe, the person's visible perception of the world isn't the center of meaning, it isn't the center of reality. What if we're here thinking that consciousness, it starts from us, it's the body, definitely, yeah, it's like the brain, but meanwhile not realizing that the brain is just a baseball mitt. And what is being thrown at it is more than just the randomity of the activity of the world. You see, we technically have actually made extraterrestrial contact. But we have not made extraterrestrial contact in our outer realms. Do you know what I mean? I mean that we are the alien in the empty room, and we are waiting. But not to go too off uh, into a different topic, but I would say that the purpose of life for a long time was unconscious endurance. That means it was so easy to continue when there was nothing to lose, when there was no consciousness of a body. It was, can you imagine? Because I honestly feel the legs grew earlier than the head. This may sound strange, you know? I may be, you know, in regards to certain experiments of certain evolutionary findings, I may be, you know, in the uncommon opinion, but I'm telling you, there is something about movement being required and then the mover feeling incomplete and then sensory perception arising. Do you know? The thing that evolution really tells us is that we're not the beginning of the process. And we can't see the beginning or the end. Pretty much man has to honor the middle of the road, you know? So what does that mean? You know, this notion of endurance, we're told our whole life pretty much, work hard, you know. But what's strange is that working hard is not enough in this system. So why are people working so hard? And let me tell you, you work hard as much as based on the result you need. That means if the person is satisfied with little, like let's say if you are satisfied with 1 glass of water, you don't need to get gallons and gallons and gallons of water and just keep it in your house, for example. Do you know? Yeah, that means, can you imagine, for example, in a in a desert, you know, like someone just holding the water, you know? There's many stories, you know. But the issue is that even after people are given, there is an endless thirst. That means, like, pretty much when I think about my life and my work in this world, most of my work is pretty much maintaining this, this physical moment. You know, the physicality of the moment. But when I think about, am I just a bunch of atoms in an empty room? Hell nah. You know, you change your mentality. You know, it's like we have been emptiness. Emptiness is nothing new. Non-duality is nothing new. The duality is the rare opportunity. Oh man, this world is just a massive movement. People are coloring it based on the colors they define, even. You know, this is why I'm saying, like, when I was young, it was so I can say speech was a bit difficult. Not speaking was easy, but just the comfort to speak wasn't there. Then I realized we're on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Then I just laughed for a while, and my whole archetypal character changed. You see, insight changes the way you are in the same site. It's another angle. That means my effort is like, there is no truth that you could hang on the wall and think like, all right, that photograph is truth. Truth is not a photograph, and language and beliefs are trying to make a moving system into a photograph. For me, I understand there's different contexts. Some people say you gotta believe it, you know. But I'll tell you, it's not about belief. It's about how is there even something to believe? For me, it's very fascinating. If we didn't have the alphabet, how could we have any religious text? So, do you see subjective truth does not predate a language? The fact that we all think our thoughts, we're not thoughts because we generate sound and there is a sort of thoughts come and go. Do you know? It's like imagine you take out your camera and are filming from a car window, moving car window, you know? So can you say like you are just one moment of the footage of that camera? No. You are the whole journey. You're the attributeless journeyer through the manifest journey. We're honestly like candles in the dark. And people have not realized the value of sharing how the accuracy of the inner realms. For the sake of the cultural and social programs, we wear different masks for different moments. I can tell you based on, imagine you're in a room with a person, and every person that comes into the room is like another dimension being added to the room. So, how do we see the world more than just star stuff in the void hallucinating humanhood? I'm going to share a story from a great sage, and this great sage is actually my grandmother. When I was young, I have a twin brother. Me and my brother, we would spend a lot of time with my grandparents when we were young. And my grandmother, of course, all grandmothers are nice. But I'm saying my grandmother would, I would remember she would cook food, and me and my brother were very young, maybe like very young, and maybe seven, six. I don't know, but I can tell you, every time she would cook food and she would bring it to my brother, she wouldn't say, "Eat this food, it's tasty." She would say, "This food is beautiful, eat it." That means it didn't matter if there was vegetables on it, there was, meat in the food. It didn't matter what the food was. She would just say, "This food is beautiful, eat it." And it was this situation where the notion of beauty was like this nanosecond of heaven, you know? A beautiful moment is like for a nanosecond, the person has stepped out of the simulation where there is a character that can break. It's like an eternal moment is remembered with temporary eyes just to see that the mind's eyes were way open before the body's was. And for me, it's very interesting. There was this, I was having, I could tell you this, it was pretty much, beauty is the second step. If the first step of mysticism is noticing the unknown, the second step is a sort of patient beauty. You know what it is? It's pretty much, it's like imagine A human being wants to communicate to an ant, but the ant has to first stop thinking it's the ant. When it stops thinking it's the ant, it comes to a neutrality where it's neither ant, neither anything else. And from that neutrality, there emerges another, you can say, structure of identity or whatever. Because we seem to forget, we treat each other as human identities. We think of like, all right, this person's identifying as this, that, this, that, this, that. But you know what it is? Identifying is a verb. It's an action. So you are an identity in order to move. And because you move, you can then be identified. So our identities are just, they are just attempts at eternalizing temporal moments. Honestly, right now, I can identify with who I was yesterday. I could literally compare this moment to who I was, and I can compare it to who I will be. When I look at it when I compare it to the past, when I look at my past, I can't do anything about it. It's all past, but when I look at the future, that's where the unknown is alive. So you can say endurance is the game if you're trying to keep the past the same. But if you realize there has been no such thing as the past, yes, and I'll tell you, it's literally like a car being manual and being automatic. One, you have to consciously change its gears. The other, you don't have to. We are now reaching a point in uh, human advancement of attention where people have lived for a while life as an object. We have lived life even in moments where we speak, in moments where there's the attention of others on us, in the moment where, we are moving our attention. We have also lived as a mind. But you see, now things must change. Because it's a trick question. This may be a bold statement, but maybe someone should say it. I honestly feel Eckhart Tolle, Muji, all those people in the New Age community saying the here and now. I do understand it, but right now I notice something. The here and now doesn't exist in a changing world. What is your here in the void? That means what we are calling now here is actually nowhere. Even the letters agree. I don't know. Why are we all enduring? Why are we all seeking all our desires when we know the ship is going to sink? And many philosophers have said, because the ship is going to sink, we got to use it. But I'm telling you, now we have come to a position where it's as if we're on the Titanic and we have to build an airplane before the ship sinks. What does that mean? That means people have to, this may be one of the most strangest statements, but they have to thank God for the void. We have to, believe it or not, be grateful for our temporalness. Because it is what is inspiring motion. If I was eternal right now, immortal even, I wouldn't do anything. Why would I need to do anything? It would become literally as if like you're walking in an endless imagination. And you know what's even more stranger about the world? Reality is like walking in somebody else's imagination. It's like walking in some other kind of imagination, something that is not from the content of a mind, maybe, or even your mind. You see, my inner realms, sure, go in the inner realms and feel like you're here and now. It's instant. You can, you can just close your eyes and feel you're anything, you know? But in the outer realms, it's like asking what is the purpose of the inner realms for the outer realms? What is the purpose of the outer realms for the inner realms? The purpose of the inner realms for the outer realms is to move it. Literally, the mind exists to move stuff. I don't know how else we are defining free will. Free will is a movement. Excuse my language, but some people have said, like, move your ass. It's like move your consciousness. That's the meaning of life. To be something consciously. That's the true work of art. That's what the poet Rumi meant when he said, be living poetry. Which I would translate as find the truth to the rhythms of your experience or the experiencer. Because honestly, my motivation for action is based on the character that I feel I am in the story that I perceive. And with the positioning of the inner realms, just the fact that an object became a subject to itself, whoa. I don't know, like this, it always strikes me funny how we've avoided the subjective evolution of the species. It's like, it's not just because a creature stared into a mirror and suddenly became conscious, there's way more. Most likely what's going on is that we are in our own home feeling like strangers. That means you don't know how many nights I've thought about, if names are hollow, what is moving here? If language wasn't here, what would we be? And that's where all I could tell you, I noticed it specifically in 2015. It was like literally, I saw the whole moment move. I don't know how to say it. It's literally like the mind is just staying where the eyes are. The mind is not limited to the eyes. The mind is being the whole room in a strange way. Or I would say that which is even further than the mind. Because to be a non-dual moment means to be changeless. So now the question comes, can we be changeless while seeing change? That means it's like this very, I guess, deep way of saying it, that is the changeless changing, or is change changeless? These two sentences are like a portal. They will endlessly inspire new ideas. Like a spinning portal, you know? Imagine like the wheel. Excuse me. Imagine like a portal, a giant portal, and imagine it's like the Wheel of Fortune, like that wheel for the Wheel of Fortune show. And so each color on that wheel is like a different kind of portal. So let's say we found a circular portal, which is like endless strips of portals on it. So it would be like the person can choose how they enter or engage thought. The body is an object, the mind is a subject, and the whole moment is watching itself as the whole moment, pretty much, from the beginning. It's like energy can't die. So if consciousness and energy are instantaneously synonymous, the person will experience most likely endless change, changelessly. They asked this man, tell us about your history. He said, I have three kinds of history. The person, when asked the question, said, what do you mean? And he said, I have an individual history. The history of my eyes from the moment I was born till the moment they will close. And then he says, the second is my universal history. And the guy's like, what do you mean? The universal history is attention as space. That means people think that there's only past lives. They think they've been only objects. Like, let's say you're a Buddhist listening to this. Do you know life is one? Uh, it's like a singular void. I don't know how to tell you. It's as if every category, every way we have spoken about something, because it is in the void, feels as if it's in one place. We are all enduring for creative future purposes. People, they want to pretty much, I think we want life to be as easy as our inner realms can make it to be. And of course, guys, keep in mind, I'm just one person talking here. This universe is so big that it's like automatically it's like how much can an ant on a hill know about, like, you know, like human politics. The ant on underneath a rock can't know anything about human politics. But little does it know that it's in a monarchy of its own, you know. That was a point Alan Watts was making. He said that the universe is seen like a monarchy. That means we don't have control over the weather in regards to how nature laws are like the queen. I feel that there can be an argument that is valid in a secular context and also a non-secular idea, and it's that whether we think reality is imagination or imagination is real, both in the imagined states, let us say even in modern society would put the dream state in that category. Both there is landscape, and identification with the landscape generates self. So if I close my eyes and I remember like my childhood and I remember a happy moment, a moment where I was in the sun, I could be in the coldest place, but I'll suddenly see my body is acting as if it's in the sun. It's as if that memory became the instruction signal. So what it is it's like we're again this attributeless observer, let's say, this attributeless observer is witnessing attributes, it's choosing them, it's classifying them, so and then choosing between them. Sometimes I feel free will is like man being controlled from a higher dimension, you know and the absence of free will is man being controlled by the lesser dimensions. The lesser dimensions are lifeless. Like, you could technically say, like, it's like, is an evil person worse or an object? It's like, which one is more valuable to just life's natural selection? That means it's like, people sometimes have more respect for an object than even for people, for a person's mind. There's this scene, I don't know if I saw this in a movie or where, but it's pretty much like this person, the guy does something wrong, and the girl says, "Don't objectify me, what the fuck?" Like some intensity like that. Now, what you never see the guy saying is, "Hey, hey, hey, don't subjectify me." Do you see? For me, it's very fascinating. We all believe we're stardust, but then people are getting offended. That means in a materialistic society, anytime there is something upsetting the person, the question is, who is upset? Sometimes, life, of course, has its pressures. It's based on really how you pilot. Sometimes you pilot smoothly, And you're like, nice, it's like good karma, and sometimes you pilot where there is turbulence, or maybe sometimes that turbulence is necessary. Certain intense things in my life where at the time they happened where I was resistant of it, years later I realized it's like that experience was so necessary, so that the next moment I came into a moment similar to that, I had the experiential database for it, I had recognized the pattern. I would tell you there's no such thing as failure and success. It's just efficient pattern recognition. Because the whole point is, if you don't waste time thinking about yourself, think of how much time you will have to see more than yourself. One of the most fascinating moments in my life was when I realized I didn't know anything. That means it's as if, like, think as if living, running many laps around the sun and suddenly realizing, oh my God, I've lived this life, but I have no idea who's looking through my eyes. Is it an object? Is it a subject? Is it something else? It's like a person wondering what is the purpose of a chair? What is the meaning of life? Let's say a chair became conscious and was like, what's the meaning of my life? Or let's say a cup became conscious and it's like, what's the meaning of my life? You know, it's like the design that you are is an immediate suggestion of that meaning, what you are. So if the person accepts themselves, they're accepting the initial position or the initial filter where all meaning is stepping out of. Do you know? There's a story, yogic story, about Sri Ramana Maharshi meeting a young Papaji. Papaji, he was like, I don't know, in his 20s or something. This guy, there's this mountain in India called Arunachala. And there's a sage, Sri Ramana Maharshi, this very liberated sage, who's on that mountain. This mountain is the mountain of mystics. Different yogis have gone into this mountain and just meditated in its, quietude. So Papaji is like one of those yogis in this mountain, and Ramana Maharshi was another yogi mystic on this mountain. He's going and he sees Papaji. Suddenly, this guy is dancing. He's just dancing with himself or something. And Ramana Maharshi goes up and says to him, "Hey, what are you doing?" And Papaji says, I see God right now. I see Krishna. I'm dancing with Krishna." So Papaji, this yogi, was dancing with the divine, as if a sort of celestial archetype. It's like as if the unconscious mind had become his god, Papaji's god. And it's there where Papaji says to Ramana Maharshi, this kid just dancing, he says, I'm dancing with Krishna, with God. Ramana Maharshi looks at him and gives Papaji one of the most important life lessons. And he says, sorry, not Papaji, Sri Ramana Maharshi says to Papaji, a God that comes and goes is not the real God. A truth that comes and goes is not the real truth. That means if we really want a truth, we should be definitely seeking the changeless. It's like, quickly, everybody check the universe for the changeless. for the changeless moment. Everybody, quick, check around your surroundings. Try to find yourself. You know, it's like the person's looking in their pockets, and their friend comes to them, and it's like, "What are you looking for?" And it's like, "I don't know, man. It's like I lost my true self somewhere along this, process of living." And little does that person know that existence is a mirror of how the experiencer breathes. That means I will tell you, if you as a human being, whatever situation you're in life, if you just breathe gently, even if a meteor was about to hit Earth, even if chaos was about to appear, it would be just breathe gently. Thich Nhat Hanh has this quote, he says, smile, breathe, and go slowly. That is the ultimate path. Those who understand this, you can very easily pilot through change. Because there is a fear of loss. If that fear of loss goes away, I'm not saying like the person becomes careless to their biology and thinks they're immortal just because, they've noticed attention not having anything to do with matter. It's like, it's not that it's like we shouldn't seek a metaphysics that is trying to avoid physics. And we shouldn't seek a physics that is avoiding all the other ways the world can move beyond, the dust on the telescope. We have to celebrate novel expressionism. We do this on a massive collective level, and advanced civilization literally just falls out of the sky, or I would say rises into the sky. Because when I look at my hands, when I look at my physical body, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely creaturehood, all right. But then I ask myself, okay, so what's happening after I've noticed I'm a creature? I'm also acting as a name, as an actor, right? So everybody notices the subjective actor. Just say something or move or just check your Facebook. It's like, whose Facebook is that? The subjective actor, the ego, the I thought. And the I thought is the most crucial it's like these are gates, okay? In certain books, some dude said there's like 107 ways to get enlightened. I'm like, buddy, if there's 107 ways, wait, it's just you know, it's like, why limit it to 107? You know, what it means is, it's like, because it has to do with how the mind was here before the body. We tend to think the body has to do something to realize how the mind is here. So the poor souls are going around the world being these followers of people who are telling them to just, be robotic. I'm telling you, this life is not. There is no guru disciple. Even though I share these stories because there's a significance to their moral, and I'm trying to honor the story and its accuracy. But like, I'm telling you, in this life, it's like clarity and efficiency. They are the new spirit guides of the civilization. Because the whole point is, like, this is the way. If something important happens, it becomes a domino effect. It attracts. Just like how there's fire, just like how there is, let's say you have fire and it attracts the moths, the moths being attracted to a candle flame. You can say similarly, if 8 billion human beings start communicating in new and advanced ways, we will literally be like this glow of expressionism. Do you know? That means the more time keeps going forward, and people don't feel free while they're alive, then it's as if they will not feel. You know what it is? It's like someone who's asking you for help, but you don't like them. I experienced this a lot, but I was on the other end asking for help. But sometimes it's good in life when people don't help you. You know why? Because then you realize the next time somebody asks you for help, you now know why it makes sense to help. It's kind of cool. Sometimes in my inner realms, I perceive all 8 billion human beings on this battlefield where it's pretty much we rise, we pick up whatever tools around. You know what it is? It's not a battlefield. It's literally like, I think we will eventually get to a point where it's just beings are just opening their eyes, designing incredibly, and exiting. Can you imagine we build an advanced civilization that instead of the child feeling like it's born in a world of suffering, what if it's like a paradise? What if we can build paradise with our bare hands on this earth? you know? I'm telling you, it's strategy as attention in your inner realms and strategy as the content of attention in your outer realms. Sometimes you can even wonder, why does the world need to be defined? Why does nature need to be moved? And I feel that's the ultimate, where there is no self, we are one cosmic conscious event, yet there could be endless selves. And like what that means is like, right now we don't have cyberspace inside of our brains, you know, whether through signal form or through actually somebody connecting something to the brain, which is highly unlikely. I hope it's kept highly unlikely, because interference with biology is disturbance to what was given. Nature is not limited to human ideology. And once you realize this, an intensity of fearlessness opens up, where then you start actually looking at your mind. What I feel like people such as Terence McKenna, Alan Watts, all these uh, philosophers of language dared wonder how reality was being meaning. There's some things that nobody can ever do for you, and there's some things that you can't do until the species gets to it. You know? The way this system is designed, it's as if, like, think of it this way, it's like we can't go to the second level until everybody completes the first level. So you can say that people can finish the whole first level and they still can't go to the second level. So what do? They come back from the beginning and help people finish the levels quicker. As the collective level is attained, the collective achievement of the first level, the second level occurs. Then there comes the second duality. Really, how we should function through civilization is literally we're surfing, or like a dolphin jumping in and out of water. You know, what does that mean? That means it's literally like these poles. We suddenly think that everything is individual and objective. Then suddenly we think things are subjective and multidimensional. Do you know what I mean? It's this constant uh, oscillation between worlds of perception, or modes of perception. You know, we're like an attributeless being the center of a circle that is like a kaleidoscope. Pure attention is the secret that can never be told. Only there are some things in life, like the person, the only way they can be is by not being it, and then they come to a state where they're no longer, there is no resistance. That means it's strange. When you don't want anything, you can't be hurt internally. That means emotionally, you know what that means? That imagine like you see it in movies, like there's, I remember there was, I don't know what movie it was, but it was like this movie scene where the person's angry and starts destroying this person's car, and at the end the person's like, yo, that's not even my car, man. You just committed, like, a felony. So that's it's kind of like that, I think. Which may be strange. It could be that nobody actually has physical karma. The karma is just how consciousness was, I want to create a word here, effortized. Like attention is an effort. We are dreaming reality in the void. It's mind-boggling, the existential condition, and we think there's something called normal. The universe you think is normal? There's nothing normal about the human position, which means that the notion of trying to categorize something as good and bad is too old school. Like, for how long? For how long do we want to point fingers rather than realize people, the mind is unknown? That means it's like, if you're cruel to someone, you never know who is there behind their eyes seeing it. You know? That means there's certain times in life where the person may feel like, in a short-term strategy, it makes sense to, get angry. But in the long-term strategy, it's like, literally, it's like the whole point of us standing on our two legs is because we're trying not to be just savage animals. So it's like the ancient Greeks would say, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. So we are right now inside that tamed, semi-tamed savageness. And the more we live as minds, the less we care about hurting bodies. You know, a person may not know if they're an artist, but the universe definitely is. For me, the laws of nature are divinity's brushstrokes, but not a conceptual divinity. That means I'm in this strange situation because I'm renouncing language, because I'm saying truth can't be contained in language. It's like I feel both from the religious angle, they're like, "What did you say?" And from the secular angle, it's like, "What did you say?" And I'm like, "That's the point. It has nothing to do with what we say. Language is world inside a world. You get caught into it, you miss out on the first world you're in. The presence of nature is like I wouldn't be like we. I feel everybody empathy is going to be realized to be um, the sight of the species. That means it's like I feel fear echoes in a strange way beyond just vocal tone to the human being. I mean, there was a scene in this film, like Lord of the Rings, right? Where I don't know, like it was in the second film. In the second film, there was a scene where one of the hobbits goes and I don't know, touches Sauron's orb that Gandalf is like very terribly protecting. And so like before that scene where that hobbit doesn't like respect like literally a wizard that came back from the dead's powers. There's a scene where Aragorn, like that king guy, is there with the elf guy. It's terrible. What is it? It's like Aragorn and Legolas or something, you know? And there's this scene where Aragorn is already out, Legolas is already outside, Aragorn comes outside, and it's like Legolas is looking and like the clouds are red, like it's like early in the morning, it's like the clouds are red, and Legolas just looks at Aragorn and says, the clouds are, I don't know, something like the clouds are red. There's been bloodshed. I'm like, buddy, you're living in Middle Earth. Every day there's bloodshed. And at the same time, it was like, how could this guy know? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think all elves in Lord of the Rings were tripping on mushrooms, to be honest. Like, our conscious attention is a light beam piercing the darkness of the cosmos. Its value is in itself, is in what it illuminates. There's endless ways to speak. Because language, there is like, when you think about the dictionary, these were words that were just accepted Think of how every word you know being able to be changed with a different word. Literally, that's what different languages are. So it's like literally our communication is multidimensional. Like a word has, a concept can be communicated in different languages, yet we feel that we are just one person, not realizing that it's literally like one energy kind of being expressed as various perspectives of the cosmic angle. Like it's cosmo individual angle. Right now I thought of a term. I don't know if this is out there, this term or not, but I think we're gonna evolve. I used the term before, the galactician. But I think like after cyberspace, after geometric evolution, then a cyberspace collective evolution, then we're no longer going to be Homo sapiens or the cyber Homo sapien. We're going to be cosmonauts. We're going to be the human beings, the first human beings the early human beings who treated the cosmos as their home, the whole cosmos, the whole universal sector. That means national pride? Excuse me, galactic pride. It's like it's like we can totally play the game of like who identifies with what. It's like some person was like, I believe in God. The other person was like, buddy, you believe in God. I am God. Do you know what I mean? And it came to a point where that's how war began, I feel. Self Uh, just, you know what it was? We didn't have tolerance to accept each other as unknown minds. So the known bodies felt the minds had to know in the same way they knew. Because when I look at war, it's pretty much like hunger for something the person most likely already has. That means I'll tell you, there's some students who, for their whole life, they just have they're trying to be like the classroom student, taking notes of everything. Lovely, you know. But there's some students who they suddenly notice what this game of language is here. So after learning known teachings, let's say there's a teacher and this teacher's you know let's say you had all the information in the visible universe, observable visible universe, then the next teaching would be the unknown. The unknown is the last refuge of the multidimensional. After Friedrich Nietzsche declared God is dead and man killed him. You see, it's not about the word God. It's about the geometry behind the implication of the concept. This may be strange and it may be even like too soon, like people may not understand what I mean, but there may come a time where we will see that in order to have passion, one has to treat a subject more than a subject. What does that mean? That means this may sound strange, but I've had moments where I could tell you I've read something or I've read something online or in a book, and literally when I finished that sentence, the image that had completed in my inner realms was just this pure moment of me just being grateful that attention had noticed itself. You know what I think people should do? People should get a piece of paper, write the word problems, and draw a line underneath that word, and make a list of everything that's a problem in their life, after finishing the list, you know, getting another piece of paper on the other side, just like how you wrote the problem with the line, write the question why, and wonder why your problems are existing for you. And then wonder what percentage of these problems are actually physical things that are happening, and how much of your suffering is just because what you want in the future hasn't happened yet. You know, that means if I think about the end, it's like Alan Watts was saying, you don't listen to a symphony just to hear the ending of it. You know, so life is like that too. We are an elusive current in an oceanic truth. You know, it's like energy is surpasses personality. Yet we have made a civilization for the person, you know, for people. So really an advanced civilization surpasses human archetypes, you know. That means imagine an advanced civilization was like, all right, one day aliens are gonna come here, and eventually, let's say, peaceful aliens come to Earth, you know, and if peaceful aliens come to Earth, most likely there's going to be immigration and citizenship. So imagine in the future, underneath, like in your passport, there's also like species as a category. And really, beauty is after you've seen what you've lost, only beauty is really left. I don't know. It's like, you know, it's kind of interesting. It's like we're living to live. It's like something that is already that is alive is trying to live, you know. So we can say after 4 billion years, it's like a privilege to be able to even have a conscious mind that notices suffering, you know. You can say it's like this is Mr. Within's message to anybody who has some sort of stress or uh, or some sort of turbulence of the mind. It's like the secret to I feel ultimate health, or health for the mind at least, is to keep walking in the art gallery and not to get caught on one painting only. That way you feel you experience uh, more dimensions than just being in the right dimension, you know. Because I'm telling you, ideology can become a box on a person's head. That means it's like after a certain point, the person's like, I don't want to hear it, you know. When you ask, you know, when it's like you know, I once had a conversation. I could tell you, a very deep conversation with someone who suddenly, at some point, it was like the conversation was like, it's as if the person, because I noticed, because the person identifies with language, the conversation is limited. That means the best conversations happen selflessly, actually. So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. And there's a quote by Rabindranath Tagore. He says, uh, "Beauty is truth's smile when she beholds her face in a perfect mirror." Something like that. So, is it just endurance till the end? It better not be. Really, it's like if you just choose to consciously live as a conscious being, then the ending can't be defined. So you just notice that you're as unknown to yourself as everything is to itself, you know. True freedom was there before it needed to be, really. Because it's like, how where are we accessing truth in the here, you know, in the here and now? So the biggest question should be, who is looking for truth, not what is truth. And that question leads to a self-inquiry that I feel activates the witness that may allow the inner realms to move. That means it's like behind your eyes, it's not like you shouldn't chase anything. When it comes to anything metaphysical, you should pretty much just be super still and watch the world move. So you can say meditation is like the person trying to see what is them moving in the moment and what is the world moving in the moment. And when they are very physically still, so it's like the body's not it's like stationary, then they notice the mind moving. Now people usually notice the mind moving and they go to, like, I don't know, they say it's like, yo, I have too many thoughts, you know, I'm doing it wrong. But that's the whole point. The whole point of it is your body to be still for that inner film to begin. Then you begin consciously watching that inner film, not to not have thoughts. The point that what they should have said is not to be a thought. That means it's like it's as close to a resonance or a vibe as like that person, that photographer who saw like this rare moment in nature, but they didn't decide to take the picture. They just put the camera away and just took the moment in, you know? It's kind of like that. Exactly. That is true meditation, where you see what's happening before you try to happen in the moment. Then there's a strange freedom of how energy is just simply here before complex interpretation. And it's at best an opportunity. At worst, there's nothing here. You know, so one side of the coin it's empty, one side of the coin it was never empty. Thanks for listening.